Hello YouTube, my name is Rachel Mayo. Welcome to my channel and thank you for being here. I'm going to be discussing the effects of the full moon that's going to happen on the 2nd of September at 10 degrees of Pisces. This full moon event is happening on the Virgo Pisces axis. This is the 6th house and the 12th house. The highlighted area is going to be the Pisces 12th house of the zodiac. The 12th house rules over our hidden enemies, our past karma, what we do when no one's looking. The 6th house is the Virgo house. This rules over what we do for work, our daily routine, our health, our diet, and our open enemies. Let's take a closer look at Pisces. Pisces is emotional, idealistic, charitable, and intuitive. So don't be surprised if you find yourself feeling highly emotional during this full moon event. The moon rules Cancer and Venus is transiting Cancer, which is a highly emotional sign. So that's already a beginning point of emotion. This full moon is going to further emphasize our emotional side. Venus is transiting a water sign, Cancer, and she's highly emotional there, and she's being squared by her lover Mars. So there's definitely a lover's quarrel going on, either about relationships or money. The most positive aspect of this full moon is the fact that there is a grand trine in the earth signs. This energy makes things real, especially the fact that Saturn is transiting his own sign of Capricorn, where he is at home and he's very powerful. So if you've been working on a project for a very long time, this is the point of culmination and fruition, and unfortunately endings for some people. Endings that happen in the sign of Pisces rarely come as a surprise. These are usually endings of things that we knew have been long time coming. We've seen them coming for a while, and this is the point of no return. This is where it all ends so that it can begin anew in the sign of Aries, the first sign of the zodiac. Pisces is the end, the last sign of the zodiac, the 12th sign of the zodiac. When I do the reading for the ascendant, I'm going to discuss which house this full moon event is going to happen in your chart, according to your ascendant, moon, and sun sign. I'm also going to discuss the aspect of Venus opposing Saturn and what you can expect from that opposition. In Taurus is making a very positive aspect to both lights, the sun and the moon. This is a supportive aspect which is going to make our transitions much smoother. For the people that actually listen to the whole introduction and not just jump to their sun sign or ascendant sign, I have a bonus towards the end of the introduction. I'm going to give you some insight about people who have Aries Ascendant for their solar return this year, or for those people who had it for the beginning of 2020. This is not only for Aries sign, anybody can have an Aries Ascendant for their solar return. This is very important, and it's going to give you some insight on what you can do to use this ascendant to achieve success. So listen to the whole introduction so that you can access this bonus. So getting back to the aspects, Venus is opposing the stellium in Capricorn, namely Saturn, Pluto, and Jupiter. Venus opposing Pluto is another challenging aspect which could make some people compulsive and obsessive. And then opposing Jupiter, even if it's a wide orb, Jupiter just expands everything it touches. The planets that rule the sign of Pisces are Jupiter and Neptune. Neptune is transiting his own sign of Pisces, which makes him very strong and therefore making this lunation extra potent. Jupiter is transiting the sign of Capricorn. Just looking at Neptune alone, I would advise you to be very careful this weekend or the days surrounding this lunation. Neptune also rules the seas and the oceans. So as we can see, there's already warnings of storms coming towards the east coast. Pisces is the 12th house, the house of our hidden enemies and our self-sabotaging habits. So this is not the weekend to go on a drinking spree and drive. If you're going to go out this weekend, you should avoid drinking and driving. If you're beginning to take a new type of medication, be careful with that medication, because when Neptune becomes activated, we all become very sensitive to any type of stimuli or medications. And if you have friends or family that have a problem with drug use, this is the week for you to look out for them. Since Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac, I know I keep repeating this, and there's a full moon lunation in the last sign of the zodiac. With the ruling planet Neptune transiting his own sign, this makes Neptune very powerful. This is all about our escapist tendencies, our magical thinking. We won't know when enough is enough. And then for some people, their depression is going to hit an all-time low at this time. So things like suicide might be on the rise this weekend, or the 2 weeks that conclude this lunation. So if you know somebody who's needing some extra care and help, be that friend, be that sister or brother. Jupiter has a tendency to expand whatever it touches. So it could expand escapist habits. It could expand our magical thinking. The other aspect during this full moon event is Uranus at 10 degrees Taurus is exactly trining and sextiling this full moon event. So if you have any radical, rebellious type of ideas, Uranus, the moon, and the sun are supporting this radical move. Uranus is encouraging us to all be radical, somewhat rebellious, innovative, and shaking things up in the area where Taurus house, and shaking things up in the house of Taurus. Things that you've worked hard on for the last 6 months could come to a culmination and fruition. We cannot overlook the opposition of Venus in Cancer to the Capricorn stellium, and everybody has this area in the chart. If you ask me, this is us being very anxious and ambitious to move on to greener pastures, but we can't do that without thinking about the restrictions we're all facing from the pandemic. For other people, it could be something totally different. It all just depends which house is your Cancer house and which house is your Capricorn house. This is where this conflict, resistance, and opposition is going to be felt. And if you want to find out how this lunation is going to affect your natal chart, you personally, I suggest you get a reading at rachel-mayo.com. This full moon has a lot of aspects. I'm going to read over some of the important ones. So the full moon is happening at 10 degrees of Pisces, sextile Uranus at 10 degrees of Taurus. The sun in Virgo at 10 degrees. Jupiter is at 17 degrees. Venus in Cancer is opposing the Capricorn stellium, which could make home issues and relationship issues very challenging. Mercury is transiting Virgo, its other home sign, and is exactly trining Saturn at 25 degrees. Mercury is also trining Pluto and Jupiter at this lunation. This is going to make discussions very serious, intense, and most likely fruitful. The South Node in Sagittarius is still trining Mars and sextiling the North Node in Gemini. This is a supportive aspect because Mars and the karmic nodes are supporting whatever action that we decide to take at this time. So we've already established that Mars square Venus is a point of friction. This is an uncomfortable aspect and could bring about difficulties, arguments, and resistance in issues concerning relationships, love, and money. On top of squaring Venus, Mars is also square Saturn. Now this is an even more challenging aspect because Saturn is really powerful, and he's powerful in his home sign of Capricorn, where Mars is exalted. This could be an argument about the actions you want to take, which are being met with resistance from authority figures. Let's not forget that Mars will be transiting Aries for the next 6 months. Mars is going to leave Aries in January 2021. So we are kind of stuck with this Mars square Saturn energy for a while. And if you're trying to find out more information about how this square aspect or the transit of Mars is going to feel like, I did a video on Mars entering Aries, so I suggest you go and watch this video for more information. I'm going to leave a link in the description area. I hope you're finding value in this information and this discussion. And if you stayed until this point, I hope at this time you can support my channel by hitting the subscribe and like button. Also, make sure to ring the bell icon so that you may be notified whenever I upload new videos. Okay, so let's discuss why having an Aries Ascendant in your solar return can help you achieve success in that solar return year. I believe we only have an Aries Ascendant once in 12 years. And since Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, we have the Aries Ascendant. We're being encouraged by the universe to be innovative, to initiate projects. You've been dreaming of starting your own business and your solar return ascendant is Aries. This is the year that the universe is encouraging you to go ahead, be fearless, and begin this project. So if you know some astrology or you go to an astrologer, they're going to look at where Aries sits, as in which house it rules. This could give you a clue about what you need to initiate and in which area of your life. They will also look at where your own Mars sits in your natal birth chart, since Mars is the ruling planet of Aries. And as a matter of fact, people that have an Aries ascendant in their solar return chart this year are going to be highly supported because Mars is transiting his own sign for the next 6 months. So you have energy of initiating projects, energy of being fearless for the next 6 months. This is your year to begin whatever it is that you've been dreaming of for the past few years. So make sure you take advantage of this go-getter initiating energy. Don't worry about Mars going retrograde on the 9th of September. He is going retrograde in his own sign after all, so he's not going to do too much damage. All you have to remember is to be more patient and expect things to slow down. Internalize this energy and look over your projects. Revise, redo, and reinitiate when Mars moves forward. You may actually have some things that you may have overlooked because you are acting very courageous and impulsive. So it is good to go over your work and correct things where you need to correct them. Aries Ascendant, Sun or Moon sign. This full moon is happening in your 12th house. This is where there will be culminations and endings. Full moons in the 12th house are usually not very easy. The 12th house is where we have our hidden issues. It's the area where we self-sabotage. This is the area which we keep hidden from others. So issues that we've been hiding from others or ourselves will be highlighted at this time. If you have any hidden enemies, they will probably come out at this time and you have to face them. This is also the area of our past life karma and our self-sabotaging habits. So these habits or past karmas may be highlighted at this time so that you deal with them and resolve them so that you can start afresh when you have your full moon in your sign Aries. The positive part of this lunation is when these things are brought to light, some people will actually decide to deal with them, resolve them, get the help that they need to get, or some people may come out enlightened and be more spiritual. Your ruling planet Mars is conjunct your ascendant, so this makes you very powerful. Unfortunately, he's going to go retrograde on the 9th of September. And he's also in a square aspect with Saturn, who is also in his own sign. So you have two very strong planets, both transiting their own sign. So this will be a major battleground of will and power. However, this does not mean that this lunation is not going to be positive for you. You have many supportive aspects. Mars is trine the South Node in Sagittarius and sextile the North Node in Gemini. This is a very positive and supportive aspect, meaning that you can take action at this time and feel supported and sure of yourself. Mars, your ruling planet, is square Venus, the planet that rules your descendant. Venus rules the area of your partnerships and marriage, and this square aspect could literally result in arguments with your romantic partner about love or money or your marriage, or the issues in your marriage. The good part of this argument is that Venus is transiting your 4th house, and when Venus transits the 4th house, it tends to bring love and joy in the home, or good relationships between the mother and the family. So even though you're having all these conflicts, it's very likely that you come to a very reasonable resolution at the end of the day. Since Cancer rules our deep emotions, it is the natural ruler of the fourth house and is transiting the fourth house in your zodiac. This could have to do with your own internal conflict, your own internal emotions that need healing and nurturing, and you may feel that you're not getting that from your family or your lover. And lastly, Uranus is transiting Taurus in your second house. Uranus is in a positive aspect with the moon and the sun at this time. She is trining and sextiling both lights. This is a supportive aspect and is encouraging you to be rebellious and innovative and find new ways of earning money. Taurus Ascendant, Sun or Moon. This lunation is happening in your 11th house. This is where you're going to have culminations, fruitions, or endings. If you've been working on a project with a group online or your friends, this is the time that this project is going to come to this is the time that this project will come to culmination, fruition, or ending. Some of you are going to accomplish a long-term wish or goal and ambition that you've been working on for a very long time. This is definitely a point of accomplishment. However, this accomplishment might be bittersweet because your ruling planet Venus transiting Cancer is in conflict and opposition with the Capricorn stellium, namely Saturn, Pluto, and Jupiter. The other aspect is that Mars, your lover, is also in conflict with you because there is a square aspect and he's transiting his own sign of Aries, which makes him very powerful. So he might be the one to actually win this argument. However, things will get really complicated for Mars even though he wins this argument against you, because he's going to find resistance and conflict from Saturn in Capricorn, who is also transiting his own sign and has a big gang with him, Pluto and Jupiter, who are also very powerful. Mars is going to be facing a big fight with these planets. The Mars square Venus aspect could also be translated as sexual energy, so you could expend this energy that way with your partner or in other ways or by working out. This is not the time to start a new relationship, because if you do so, this relationship might carry the argumentative energy of oppositions and squares, which on a long term are not sustainable. It's best for you to work out the issues that you have with your current partner. So Venus is squaring Mars from your third house. This might be really intense communication coming from you to your lover. And your lover or romantic partner is probably going to perceive you as being somewhat rebellious and radical. And Uranus is transiting your sign, so this is naturally going to make you have this. This is going to naturally make you have this disposition, and it's actually being encouraged at this lunation because Uranus is exactly sextiling and trining both lights at this time. Sun, Gemini Ascendant, Sun or Moon. This lunation is happening in your 10th house. This is where you're going to experience culminations, fruitions, or endings. If you've been working on a project at work for a long time, this is the moment where it's going to come to completion, fruition, or this is the time that it will end. Unfortunately, for some people, this is the time that you may be let go at your job. But this is something that you've seen coming for a while, and you may actually welcome it. Mercury, your ruling planet, is currently transiting the sign of Virgo, your sister sign, and is also forming a very harmonious aspect to the planets in the Capricorn stellium, namely Saturn, Pluto, and Jupiter. This is a very supportive aspect. It's encouraging intense and serious communication. Venus is currently transiting Cancer, your second house. Unfortunately, she's in opposition with the Capricorn stellium, Saturn, Pluto, and Jupiter. This may bring about conflict and resistance from authority figures about issues concerning other people's money, or an intimate relationship. The planet Uranus has been transiting your 12th house for a while. At this lunation, Uranus is sextiling and trining both lights. This is a very supportive aspect. Uranus transiting the 12th house could make you highly intuitive or even psychic. You could also receive messages through your dreams. So if you're feeling very intuitive about something, trust your instincts and go for it. Uranus is asking you to shake things up in the 12th house. Cancer Ascendant, Sun or Moon. The full moon is happening in your 9th house. This is area where you're going to experience culminations, fruitions, or ending. If you've been in college for the past few years, or if you've been living in a foreign land, this is the time that you're going to complete your studies and leave this foreign land to return home. If you're waiting for some important documentation, or if you had filed for a green card, this is the time that you may actually get it. For others who've been battling a court case or have illegal issues, this is the time that they may be concluded. Others could find enlightenment at this time. They may decide to let go of their old belief system. They could conclude that this old belief system does not serve them anymore or serve the person that they have become today. For most people, this is the point where they're going to change their belief system and their bigger picture. You might decide to take your whole life in a totally different, brand new direction. Ruling planet, the moon, is always a big part of any lunation. At this time, it's getting a very positive aspect from Uranus, which is transiting the sign of Taurus. Venus, the planet that rules the sign of Taurus and Libra, is now conjunct your ascendant. So you're feeling very good about yourself, you're looking attractive, and people are interested in you. Unfortunately, Venus is opposing the Capricorn stellium, namely Saturn, Pluto, and Jupiter. This is a very uncomfortable and challenging aspect. Mercury is transiting his home sign, Virgo, and forming a sextile aspect with your ascendant. This could help ease negotiations or whatever conflicts that you may have with your relationship or committed partners. If you can't find a resolution through all these serious and intense discussions, this is the time that some relationships may actually collapse and come to an end. So if a relationship or partnership ends at this time, this is something that's been a long time coming for a while. It's not going to be a surprise. And the reason why I feel that this lunation could result in an ending of a legal partnership or marriage is because we do our legal transactions in the 9th house, and this is where the lunation is forming, and then the argument and resistance and opposition and jealousies and all that back and forth is in your 7th house, for some exactly conjunct their descendant. So the focus is definitely going to be on relationships, because Mars and Venus, who are the natural lovers of the zodiac, are also in conflict. And then Mars is also in conflict with Saturn, who is very powerful in his own sign of Capricorn. So as you can see, there's a lot of energy being dispensed at this time. It's very difficult to say exactly what is going to stay and what is going to go. But whatever happens to end, I would just let it go. Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. When things end here, unfortunately, they come to die. Let me tell you about something that's actually supportive and encouraging for you at this time. Uranus is trining the sun and sextiling your ascendant at this time. So this is a positive aspect. If you had some long-term goals or wishes and you wish to change them or radicalize them somehow at this time, this is being supported. If you want to start something new in the groups that you belong to or with your friendships, this is the time that you should do so. If you want to start an online group or start an online business, this idea is being very encouraged. I would definitely go for it, Cancer. Leo Ascendant, Sun or Moon. The full moon is going to take place in your 8th house. This is where you're going to experience culminations, fruitions, or endings. The 8th house has to do with other people's money, intimate relationships, and our secrets. So if you've been working on paying off your mortgage or some other type of loan for the past few years, this is the time that you could actually pay it off. And for some people that have been in the process of applying for a mortgage or some other type of loan, this is the time that you're most likely going to get approved. Since the 8th house also rules over shared resources, some people who have been going through a divorce may come to conclude this issue at this time and divide their asset. Venus is transiting the sign of Cancer in your 12th house. Unfortunately, she's in an opposition with the stellium in Capricorn, namely Saturn, Pluto, and Jupiter. This is a challenging aspect, especially since it's hitting on Venus, who's alone in the hidden place in the 12th house. The 12th house is our private area. This is where we find our hidden enemies, and this is also where we self-sabotage. So this opposition is coming from your 6th house, the area of what we do for work, our daily routine, our health, and our diet. It's possible that you could be facing the opposition from your co-workers, or you have a hidden romantic affair that has been exposed and been found out at your work or in your daily environment. I can't exactly point out the role of Venus in your 12th house and what could be going on behind closed doors, but I can definitely tell you that you're finding a lot of resistance and issues going on in your 6th house. So maybe there's something that you need to end or reshape in your 12th house so that things can work out a lot better in your 6th house area of work, daily routine, and your health. Maybe you need to cut out some habits, or maybe you need to get some treatment or medication in the 6th house. However, what's being supported at this lunation, the sun is always a big part of any lunation. And at this full moon, your ruling planet is involved in a trine aspect with Uranus and also a sextile aspect with the moon. So this is a very supportive aspect. Harmonious aspects with Uranus, who is transiting your 10th house, could bring radical changes in your 10th house area. Unfortunately, some people may decide to quit their job at this time, or they may be let go. However, if you are let go or you quit, house is known to bring about radical type of employment. You might probably end up doing something that you never thought you'd ever do in this lifetime. It might be very radical. It might be very different from what you're accustomed to. It could involve computers. I would definitely go for trying something different at this time. This is a point of inception, when both lives support a radical action. Virgo Ascendant, Sun or Moon. This full moon event is happening on your descendant, that is your 7th house. When you have a full moon on the descendant, it's usually very, very powerful. So it's going to bring culminations, fruition, or endings in your relationships and marriage sector. Ruling planet is very fortunately strong at this time because it is transiting your ascendant, and it is forming a trine aspect to this. It is forming a trine aspect to the Capricorn stellium, namely Saturn, Pluto, and Jupiter at this time. This aspect is very supportive for you, Virgo, and is going to encourage you to stand up for yourself and go through intense and serious discussions, probably with authority figures or the structures in your 5th house, your house of creativity, love, and entertainment. There's definitely going to be some intense discussions in this area. So if you've been working on a creative project with a business partner or your marriage partner, this is the time it could also come to fruition, culmination, or natural ending. And if a relationship or marriage or partnership, for that matter, has not been working out for a while, this is the time it's going to come to a natural ending. This ending is something that you've seen coming for a while. It's not going to be a surprise at all. Overall, this full moon looks very positive for you, Virgo. It's very empowering for you. As long as you're willing As long as you're willing to let go of things that no longer serve you, i.e. relationships and partnerships that you know definitely have to come to an end. If you're born on or around September 2nd, a few days before or after, you are going to carry this energy in your solar return chart for the year. This is energy of expected endings and new beginnings, mostly endings. Venus is in the sign of Cancer, transiting your 11th house, and is facing opposition from the Capricorn stellium, namely Saturn, Pluto, and Jupiter in your 5th house. So you might have a tiff going on between the groups that you belong to, your friendships, against your children and your romantic partner, or a creative project. You may have to make some tough decisions in this area. The Sun is trine Uranus in Taurus and also sextile the Moon at this time. This is a very supportive aspect for you, Virgo. Transiting Uranus in your 9th house wants you to be radical and rebellious when it comes to 9th house issues. You may get a surprising opportunity to travel abroad. Yes, even during this pandemic, Uranus could actually provide you this opportunity. Unfortunately, for some people, this aspect would also encourage a radical belief system and a big change in a rebellious manner towards your bigger picture. Libra Ascendant, Sun or Moon. This full moon is happening in your 6th house. This is the area where there will be culminations, fruition, or endings. If you've been working on a project for a long time at work, this is the time when it will come to a natural conclusion or ending. If you've been on a diet and trying to change your daily routine through exercise, this is also the point where you're going to finally see your end result. For those people that have had a dispute with an open enemy, this is the time when their dispute will come to a natural conclusion or ending. For others who have been dealing with a chronic illness and have been going through different types of medications, this is the time when this chronic illness might be finally resolved and treatment completed. Whatever is going to end in your 6th house area is something that you've seen coming for a while. This is definitely not going to be a surprise. Your ruling planet Venus is transiting the sign of Cancer. Unfortunately, at this time, Venus is square Mars, and Mars also rules your descendant area, your relationship area. So this is very much a quarrel or conflict between lovers, which could result in arguments in your committed relationships or your marriage. This conflict could be about something to do with your work and your relationships. Venus transiting the 10th house is usually a very positive transit and tends to bring rewards and accolades in your 10th house. But these rewards and accolades are going to be met with a lot of resistance and opposition, namely from the Capricorn stellium, which is transiting your 4th house. Planets Saturn, Pluto, and Jupiter are in opposition with Venus at this time. So you're going to be torn between your work environment, your relationships, and your home sector. All these areas are going to be in conflict. This is what's going to make this lunation a bit challenging for you, Libra. Uranus is transiting Taurus in your 8th house. This area rules over other people's money, our secrets, and our intimate relationships. Uranus is in trine with both lights, the Sun, and Uranus is forming a positive aspect with the Sun and the Moon at this time. There is a trine and sextile aspect, which is very supportive. So if you have come up with an unusual way of paying off your debt or dealing with secrets that may come out into the open, Uranus is actually encouraging you to do that at this time. Be rebellious, be different, and shake things up in your 8th house. Since Libra is facing challenges on almost every angle in their chart, I suggest you find a radical and rebellious way to find excitement with your partnerships in your 8th house. You might want to spice things up in the bedroom, and hopefully all this pent-up aggression and conflict energy could be released this way. Scorpio Ascendant, Sun or Moon. The full moon is happening in your 5th house. This is the area where there will be culminations, fruitions, or endings. If you've been working on a creative project, this is the time that it will come to an end or culmination. And if you had an ongoing issue with your children or your romantic partner, this is the time that this issue could be concluded in a good way or in a negative way. It just all depends on the issue. If a relationship with a romantic partner ends at this time, it's going to be something that's been a long time coming. It's definitely not going to be something that will surprise you. And most likely you're going to be ready at this time to just let it go. Mars is one of your ruling planets, and unfortunately at this time he is in a square aspect with Venus, the planet that rules your descendant. So this is definitely friction and arguments and tension between you and your romantic partner or your marriage and other types of committed relationships. As if arguing with your partner is not enough, your ruling planet is also square to the Capricorn stellium, namely Saturn, Pluto, and Jupiter. Pluto happens to be one of your other ruling planets, and he's conjoined with these other big power planets. Unfortunately, at this time, he's not in a position of power. He has to listen to what Saturn says, as this is Saturn's house. So this is going to be a very uncomfortable opposition for you, Scorpio. Well, that's not the opposition, that's the square between Mars and Saturn. On top of that, Venus is transiting Cancer in your 9th house and also opposing the Capricorn stellium, Saturn, Pluto, and Jupiter in your 3rd house. So this is definitely going to bring up some intense and serious conversation, and this intense and serious communication might have to do with love or money. Some serious decisions and resolutions need to be made at this time. Looking at all the houses involved, one could conclude that there is an issue in romantic relationships, marriages, and other types of partnerships. There's also an issue going on with serious communication from your 3rd house, your neighbors, or your siblings. And this could have an impact on legal issues because Venus is transiting your 9th house and she's trying to smooth things over in your 9th house, which could have to do with your belief system, education, or legal issues. A resolution has to be met somehow. And Mercury, which is transiting his home sign in the sign of Virgo and a big part of this lunation, and is also sextiling your ascendant, you have to come to some kind of resolution. And lastly, Uranus is transiting Taurus, your 7th house, and is encouraging you to be different and rebellious or radical at this time. Uranus in the 7th house tends to bring us a quick marriage, but also ending up in a very quick divorce a few years later, or just a few months after. Definitely encouraging you to choose an unusual type of partner. Probably somebody who is of a different type of race than your own, or a different social status. Sagittarius Ascendant or Sagittarius Moon. This lunation is happening in your 4th house. This is a very sensitive area. This is where you're going to feel the endings or culminations at this time. And for some people, positive fruitions. If you've been in therapy and trying to resolve your deep issues of insecurity or resentments or ongoing issues that you may have with your family, this is the time that you are going to feel better and conclude this therapy. For others, if you've been having renovations going on in your house, this is the time that they will be concluded. And for others who have been building their own home, this is the time when the construction is actually going to be completed and you will be able to move into your own new home. So essentially, wherever culminates at this time is not going to be a surprise. When we have a full moon in the 12th house, it's a long journey. It's something we've been working on for a while, and in most cases, it's an ending that we've been expecting. It's just an issue of, are you going to accept this ending, welcome it, or is it going to put you in a negative disposition? Jupiter, your ruling planet, has been transiting the sign of Capricorn for a while and is in conjunction with Pluto and Saturn, who are unfortunately opposing Venus at this time. Venus is transiting the sign of Cancer, and this opposition is going to be quite challenging for you, Sagittarius. Jupiter, your ruling planet, is transiting a sign where he's not very comfortable, and unfortunately the owner of the sign the owner of the sign of Capricorn, the ruling planet, namely Saturn, is also transiting his own home sign. So all the guests in Capricorn have to listen to what Saturn says. And Saturn says, oppose Venus and make life difficult for Venus. And since Venus is transiting your 8th house, the house that rules other people's money, a major bill could be due at this time, or you could have a conflict and argument with your intimate relationships. A mortgage could be due at this time and the funds are not available, or if the funds are available, your priorities are set in different directions. And for some people, a secret could be revealed at this time. The 8th house is also the house where we keep secrets or hidden issues. To make matters worse, Mars is in opposition with her ruler Venus, who's in Cancer. Mars is transiting his home sign, the sign of Aries, which makes him very powerful at this time, and he may win this argument. You could be in conflict with your romantic partner or your children or a creative project. This argument may have something to do with finances and love. And then on the other side, Mars is also squaring the Capricorn stellium, further emphasizing the friction and aggravation that you're going to be feeling at this time. On the positive side, Uranus transiting in Taurus in your 6th house is in a very harmonious aspect with both lights. There is a sextile and a trine exact aspect happening at this time, which is encouraging you to be rebellious and different in your 6th house area. Perhaps you're going to try a new radical diet. Uranus transiting the 6th house is very well known for bringing you unusual type of work. This is the time when most people that have been studying astrology decide to become astrologers full-time, or you may opt for a very unusual type of job at this time. This lunation is encouraging you to be radical and go for it. Capricorn Ascendant, Sun, Moon, or Rising. This full moon is happening in your 3rd house. This is the area where you're going to have culminations, fruitions, or endings. If you've been working on a project with your neighbors or your siblings, this is the time when you're going to conclude this project. And the ending of this project is something that you've been anticipating for a long time. Your ruling planet Saturn is transiting his own sign, of course, Capricorn, and is in conjunction with Pluto and Jupiter. At this time, they are opposing Venus, who's transiting the sign of Cancer. This is an aspect that's going to bring challenges, arguments in your relationship area. The relationship area, the 7th house, is also known as the descendant. So you're having this opposition on angles. And when you have an opposition that's also involved with a lunation, this makes this opposition extra serious. And this argument is probably between you and your romantic relationship or marriage partnerships. Capricorn is powerful in this opposition because he is in his own sign and he has 2 other powerful planets supporting his ideas. Just transiting the 7th house is naturally supposed to bring you love and cooperation when it transits. But unfortunately, at this time, Venus is in argument with her lover Mars. They are also involved in a square aspect. And then on the other end, you're also in argument with Mars because Saturn is involved in another square aspect to Mars. So essentially, Capricorn is experiencing challenges on all angles. The most powerful angle is the ascendant, and this is where you have your ruling planet Saturn. Saturn is in square with Mars in your work area. Mars is square Venus in your relationship area, and Venus is also opposing you. So this is a T-square. This is a very challenging aspect. With all the other positive aspects of this moon, with all the other positive aspects of this full moon, unfortunately, Capricorn, you have to deal with these deep, intense issues that you have between your partnerships and your work area. Uranus transiting the 5th house is known to bring relationships, romantic relationships that may begin really quickly but end just as quickly. He is also known to bring different type of relationships, as in you're probably going to be dating out of your own race. In other negative situation, Uranus is known for unwanted pregnancies. Uranus is also known to bring a surprise pregnancy. If you've been wanting to get pregnant, you may be pleasantly surprised at this time. And Uranus is also known to bring twins. So be prepared if this is what you want. And if you're not trying to get pregnant, this is the time to be very careful and use protection. And unfortunately, depending on how your chart is aspected, Uranus is also known to bring miscarriages during pregnancy at this time. Aquarius Ascendant, Sun or Moon. This full moon is happening in your 2nd house. This is where you're going to experience culmination, fruitions, or natural ending. If you've been working on a project in your 2nd house area, that's the area of what we do to earn a living, this is the time that this project will come to completion or fruition. And if you've been waiting for some type of payment, this is the time that you're most likely to see this payment. For those that have been on a diet for a while, this is the time also that you may see this is also the time that you will see your final result. Uranus is one of your ruling planets and is very much involved in this lunation because he is sextile and trine both lights. This is a very positive aspect, even though Uranus is squaring your ascendant from the sign of Taurus. However, your other ruling planet, Saturn, is transiting his own home sign of Capricorn in your 12th house at this time. Venus is transiting the sign of Cancer, your 6th house, and is in opposition to the Capricorn stellium, namely Saturn, Pluto, and Jupiter at this time. This is a point of opposition and it's going to bring challenges between your 6th house and your 12th house area. That is 6th house, what you do for living, your health, diet, and your daily routine, versus what you do in secret, your hidden enemies, and your past karmas. When Venus transits the 6th house, it tends to make us lazy, and for some people, it tends to make you have a sweet tooth. So watch out for weight gain at this time. During this lunation, Venus is also square Mars. This square aspect is a challenging aspect that could bring arguments about love or money. And then on top of it, Mars is also squaring Saturn, your other planetary ruler. So there's squares and arguments in many houses at this time, which will make this lunation somewhat challenging and difficult for you, Aquarius. Uranus is transiting the sign of Taurus in your 4th house. This could make you unpredictable and irritable at this time. You may experience irrational feelings and insecurities at this time. Venus transiting the 4th house could make you move houses. In fact, when it hits the IC, the exact angle of your 4th house, this is the time that you're going to decide to leave your home or sell your home. Pisces Ascendant, Sun or Moon. This lunation is happening in your 1st house. This is your ascendant. This is an angle house. When we have a lunation on an angle house, we definitely feel this. We definitely feel the effects of the lunation. Fortunately for you, Pisces, this lunation has many harmonious aspects to your ascendant. Something about your identity or how you're seen in the world could be ending at this time. This full moon could have endings or culminations almost anywhere in your natal birth chart because this is about you. You might change something about your identity. For some people who have been in the closet, this is the time they may come out to the world about their sexual orientation. Some people also may change their name at this time. Your whole life could go in a totally brand new and different direction. Jupiter and Neptune are your ruling planets. Neptune is currently transiting in your sign, which makes you very powerful at this lunation. Your other ruling planet, Jupiter, is transiting the sign of Capricorn, which is sextiling your ascendant at this time, which is also a harmonious and supportive aspect. Mercury is transiting his home sign of Virgo and is also involved in this lunation because he's trining the Capricorn stellium and sextiling your ascendant. So whichever way I look at this lunation, it seems to be very positive for you, Pisces. This might be a point of accomplishment and positive culminations. This might set you in a totally brand new path. And the good part is the endings that are going to come at this time are endings that you've been working on and you've been expecting. There will be no surprises here. As long as you're willing to let go of what must go, this will be very, very positive. Venus is transiting the sign of Cancer in your 5th house at this time. Unfortunately, Venus is in argument with her lover, Mars, in a square aspect. Mars is also in argument with Saturn at this time. So these are the points where you're going to find conflict and friction at this time. The opposition is happening between your 5th house and your 11th house. This could be an issue about your creative projects, your children, a romantic lover, and your friends. Something could be going on with your friendships or in the groups that you belong to that is not exactly agreeing with your lover in the 5th house or your children. Uranus is transiting Taurus in your 3rd house at this time. Uranus is forming a positive aspect to both the moon and the sun. There is a trine and sextile aspect going on at this time. All these aspects are very supportive and encouraging for you, Pisces. You could make major breakthroughs at this time. Uranus in your 3rd house is encouraging you to communicate and think in a rebellious and a radical way. So if you've been the silent type that usually went along with what your neighbors and your siblings wanted to do, and your communication style was more and if your communication style was more reserved, this is a time that people will see you in different light. You would definitely be communicating in a more direct and rebellious, radical manner. If you've enjoyed this discussion, please like, share, and subscribe.